You need to schedule and organize enough so that they're structured, but also leave room for the other things to happen. That's when the magic happens, is when you're not expecting it.
Hey, it's Nate DeSaro, and welcome to Titans of Industry, the podcast where I talk to industry leaders and innovators who are at the top of their game and leading the pack in their fields, uncovering some of the best stories in today's business landscape. This was a fun episode where I sat down with Gina Scarpulla, the Director of Creative and Production for the internal creative agency for Discovery, Inc., the parent company of the largest nonfiction media network in the world. Gina tells us how she and her team developed the branding and marketing campaign for the new streaming service Discovery Plus during the pandemic and the challenges that came along with it, but ultimately how execution is so crucial for her team's success in producing some of the globe's most recognizable television shows and marketing content. We also dive into a discussion about how a collaboration between Shark Week and an automotive brand led to underwater adventures that connects the story between a car maker and shark fans. Now, in an effort to increase your listening interest, Gina and I thought it would be a great idea to record this episode on the beach in Malibu, California. So as you will quickly notice, there is the sound of the ocean underneath our conversation. Some of you might find this moderately distracting, while hopefully many more of you enjoy the tranquil sounds of Mother Nature in the background. Now, let's get to the episode. But before we do, our team at Content Titan wants you to know that we understand the challenges business leaders and marketers are facing right now with moving to a more virtual world. We are experts in taking human connections and turning them digital. From virtual events and video presentations to promotional content and advertising, we are here to help guide you through the process of staying in front of your audience and making your life a little bit easier. People tell us all the time that they are lost and don't know what to say or do, and we exist to help your business continue to move forward virtually. So if you're ready to take your business and content strategy virtual, we're ready to help. Let's get your business back to business. Now please enjoy my conversation with Gina Scarpulla. All right, Gina, thanks so much for agreeing to jump on the podcast, and this is a first for us. We've done location interviews plenty of times in everything from audio recording studios in Nashville to restaurants and everything in between. This is the first one on the beach in sunny Southern California. So thanks for agreeing to do this. Thanks for agreeing to do it where I can get my toes in the sand. It's very exciting. So for those of you who might like to look at the little video promos we typically have, we don't have a video camera on the beach today, so it's audio only. However, we will put some pics somewhere associated with this so you can live vicariously through our interview. So if you are hearing waves in the background, that's why. There may be a plane or a helicopter or two that fly overhead, but it's an experience that I will forever appreciate. So once again, thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. Welcome to Malibu.
Thank you. I am excited to have this conversation. You and I have known each other now for, 6-7 years, something like that.
Possibly longer, yeah. It's been a while.
Worked together the first time through distance, I think. With, some programming that was on TLC. And so it was a pleasure for me to get to work with all of the team at Discovery, Inc., which is the parent company of Discovery Channel, TLC, all these channels that we all know. So talk me through a little bit, first of all, about your internal organization and how that works, because there's a lot of layers, it's a big company.
It is.
And how did you end up there?
So I work for an internal creative agency. We do everything from long-form shows, on-air promotions, digital, print, out of home, anything and everything that could be done from a marketing, branding, storytelling perspective, our team gets to touch. Super exciting, never boring. And we're constantly adding more and more layers on it as marketing evolves and different marketing channels evolve. I've been with Discovery for about 10 years now. I started in this business kind of by accident. I went to graduate school for communication, culture, and technology and media studies, was bartending in grad school and met a great team from National Geographic and got an internship, got my first job there after working on series in their series department, so various natural history series. at National Geographic, and then went freelance for a couple of years, tried out the production thing on my own, and then started at Discovery. And I kind of worked my way up from associate producer onto, I'm a director now at Discovery in their internal creative agency.
Very cool.
It is. Very lucky, very grateful.
And along the way, there's been, I've had a few conversations with you where you're getting ready to go somewhere in the world.
Where in the world is Gina?
On a boat chasing sharks, right? So
that happens a lot. Yes, that happens.
That's one of your passions. So tell me a little bit about that piece of your career, your life, and how does one end up on a boat chasing sharks?
It's one of the parts of my job that I am constantly amazed that I get to do. I was the kid watching Shark Week growing up going, how do you get to be on that boat? I want to go. Someone's job is to be on that boat and hang out with sharks. And through a lot of kind of right place, right time, I was able to start working with various Shark Week productions. We do a lot of branded entertainment, storytelling-driven marketing for Shark Week and various clients. And, if I'm lucky, once a year, twice a year, I get to go out and be on a shark boat or go to a forest in China to film pandas or macaws in Costa Rica. It's a very, very fulfilling, exciting part of my job to be able to share stories of conservation, of these animals and these experiences that other people don't get to see, be able to bring it to a global audience.
I would venture to say that probably, if I had to guess, 80% of the people that would listen to this episode would be incredibly jealous that you get to spend your life chasing sharks and being in a cage with, not a cage.
There's been no cages before.
Yeah.
There's been no cages with the sharks or the pandas.
Which is insane.
Yep.
So that to say, over the last, year and some change, the world's changed a little bit.
Yes, it
Travel's
has.
been a little more difficult, especially international. So talk to me a little about how Discovery's changed, where it's going, and how that's affected sort of the day-to-day of your job.
So, pretty much overnight, like any other industry, we had to change our workflow in about 48 hours. We used to edit and do our post-production in offices. Everything was local, and pretty much overnight had to figure out how we were going to keep moving in a remote environment, through Zoom, through shared storage, through new technologies. I'm incredibly proud of the way that Discovery as a company and my team handled that. We were pretty much up and running. We went home on a Friday, and I think, we never really stopped working, and we probably have had one of the busiest years we've ever had, and that all is due to the team effort. Everybody kind of buckled down, knew what they needed to do, focused on the job that needed to happen, and we all adapted to new ways of working, and some of them actually were better than they were beforehand, and we were able to try things out that we weren't able to do when we were in an office. I think everyone misses the travel and is excited to get back out in the world and getting to meet amazing people and tell great stories and bring the world to the rest of the world. That's one of the things we do best at Discovery, is bring people to places they can't normally go. So we're all excited to get back out and do that soon.
I love it. And the brand as a whole, Discovery as a whole, so we've all known it previously as, the Discovery Channel. So you get on your TV, and at 7 p.m. I want to watch this show,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Discovery, and TLC, and Animal Planet, and all these great platforms that you guys have owned. And a few years ago, Discovery and Scripps come together.
Yep.
So now Food Network, HGTV, some of the greatest shows that everybody loves to watch. And now, once again, we're making a big shift into the digital space. So we see Discovery Plus launch.
Yes.
And
you've heard of it?
I've heard of it. And I've seen advertising for it.
How many? A lot,
you
say?
All over the place. It's everywhere. So talk to me. How does this advertising happen? How does it get out? I know you mentioned before we started recording that it was quite the process. The timeline was fairly aggressive to get this thing done. So this is a massive undertaking, and it's just walk us through that, because I think it's really fascinating to see how a global company can mobilize in a pandemic and push advertising out at this scope, dealing with people all over the country.
And you're right. I mean, that's the part of it is not only did we launch a brand new streaming service, we did it in the middle of a global pandemic while working from home. And the team, I mean, it comes down to it starts with a team, right? Like you have the best team. You have everyone is rowing in the same direction. Everybody is pushing toward the same goal. There were challenges, as there is with anything. None of us had done this before. This was new. This was something that we were all figuring out as we went along, and we had all the right people in the right places to make decisions and problem solve and just keep moving forward. And I think that was the big thing for all of us was it was one foot in front of the next and just keep moving forward no matter what kind of came our way. We just kept going toward that goal of getting it launched and getting it out into the world. And I think everybody's also really proud of the product. And when you're proud of what you are working on and when you are invested in what you're working on, that comes through. Everybody was personally invested and wanted this to succeed and want people to be excited. I mean, it's crazy that people come up and they'll say when they find out I work on Discovery Plus, oh, I love that. This show is amazing and I use your product. Same thing with Shark Week. And it still boggles my mind that we get to touch that many people and do something like that is part of people's day-to-day life. We get to come into their homes every day and people take the time to watch the stories that we tell and watch what we put out. And that means a lot to all of us. Does not go unnoticed.
So I'm fascinated, obviously being a storyteller, content creator, somebody that understands the work that goes into assembling pieces of content, especially under the gun and needing the right resources. Mm-hmm. But you guys are doing it at a level where you're dealing with big personalities. Yes. You're dealing with, you're a public company, so there's of course a lot of elements that go into getting this thing right. You can't just make it up as you go. I mean, in some regard,
you're on the global stage. Exactly. You have to be cognizant of that. You are on a global stage and what you put out matters, and what you put out will be seen by people. In this case, a lot of people, which was great, but it was a lot of people.
So talking about how does this team rally around itself to, do things on a condensed timeline in a way that's not been done before, because it didn't have to be done this way before. Usually you go to the office, everybody collaborate, you get whatever elements you need to capture and you get to work. Well, now you can't do that. I mean, what do the hours look like? What did the workspace look like? How many Zoom calls are you on a day?
You don't want to know that answer. Well, I work out of my dining room. I think like most of us, we have made little makeshift home offices, which has worked. We've made it work. The hours are long, but the hours are long for anything, I think, that is a big project. Leading up to Shark Week shoots, the hours are long. Anyone who gets into production knows it is not a 9-to-5 job. You do the work when you have to do the work, and I think for a lot of us, actually being home helped because we could work longer hours and take a break, have dinner, spend time with families, and then go back and do what needed to be done. And that helped, I think. Like I said, everyone was going in the same direction. So everybody stepped up and said, here's how I can help. Here's the skill sets I have. I have this idea. Like everybody's ideas were welcome. There was a lot of collaboration, a lot of Zoom meetings. There were some days we just kept an open Zoom and just stayed on it, and we talked through things as we needed to. It also helped that a lot of us in various teams had worked together before. So there was a level of trust and a level of camaraderie and family, really, that we were all there for each other. We all covered each other. We supported each other. And I think in the end, it worked out. It was a success.
So one of the things that I think is important to talk about with any endeavor, and especially one that, like you were telling me about how Discovery got launched, it's not all smooth sailing. There's trials and tribulations and probably some failures along the way, but failures ultimately make us stronger, and they get us one step closer to success. So did you guys see any major hurdles you had to overcome, other than, of course, the distance piece of it and everything else, but things that didn't work, things you had to rework, talent you were trying to get a hold of that couldn't do things you wanted to do? What's something that stands out that was one of the biggest challenges that you feel like you had to overcome?
There's always ways to learn. there's not one particular failure per se that stands out. I think even now we're only 6 months into the launch of Discovery Plus, and every time we do things, we learn a better way to do it from the time before. We learn how to create efficiencies, and we learn how to make something even better than it was even 6 months ago. And I look back at some of the processes that we put in place, because we had to build all new processes for this, all new ways of naming things, organizing things, communicating things. You're talking about the amount of assets for a global launch like this is massive, and the amount of people that need to access them. So we had to build systems. We liken it to, building the plane while, you're flying down a cliff. You have to build it as it's happening. There's no time to preemptively build something and then test it out and see if it works. And I look back at even some of the early systems we had 6 months ago, and we've come so far now from that. And that's all from learning and evaluating. There's a lot of research that goes on. A lot of our decisions are made based on research. We listen to our customers. We talk about things, we evolve things, and want to make them better in the end.
I love it, and I agree completely. So if you have to think back of all the things you've done in your career, and I know there's been a lot of growth and learning, which is what happens to all of us, but what's something that stands out that you wish you knew earlier in your career, that once you figured it out, you were like, wow, this changes the game. This makes things different.
I mean, organization, I was always organized, but I really see the benefit of being organized, but also figuring out rooms for things to happen as they will. I was someone, when I started early on, that liked to see all steps of the process happen before I did them. And so I would overschedule things, and I would look at things and want to get every single part of the process done, from draft, script, all the way through post-production. I wanted to be able to see it. And then I realized that part of the beauty of what we do, of both storytelling and production and marketing in this sense, whether it's traditional marketing, branded entertainment, or even just sharing a story on a documentary piece, you need to schedule and organize enough so that they're structured, but also leave room for the other things to happen, because that's when the special stuff happens. That's when the magic happens, is when you're not expecting it. I've gone out on shark boats before where we've had all days scheduled from morning until night and had to throw out the schedule on day one. And the stuff that happened was things that we never would have expected to happen. I did get chased by a mako on an inflatable boat during that trip, but that I was not expecting, but it was fine. But it's leaving that room for life to happen and for the stories to happen. A lot of the stuff we do is unscripted. And that's where I find the most fun, is letting go enough that I let things happen as they will. And it really gives some wonderful results.
I love it. All right, I want to shift focus a little bit and talk about the storytelling angle and the way that the internal agency works within the bigger picture of Discovery. Because essentially, what you guys do is take a brand, whatever that brand is. Lately, it's been Discovery Plus as a brand. But it's also your clients, your advertisers, that say,
Yes.
we want storytelling done the way that Discovery does it. And we want to attach ourselves to that story. And that's how we want to market. That's how we want to advertise our product, our service, is through the type of storytelling that Discovery does. So talk me through, what are some of the favorite projects you've done that are sort of branded content?
Well, that's easy. That's an easy one. I mean, those are really fun. We're very lucky. So our internal agency works with internal clients. So we work with all of the networks. We are also the corporate communications and branding team. We work with a lot of nonprofits, conservation groups, government agencies. But we also get to work with brands that everybody knows and loves. And figuring out a way to tell a brand story mixed with our DNA and our storytelling, and the stories that only Discovery can tell, is a really fun thing to do. It's a really fun challenge, and it can really lead to some incredibly creative things. I mean, one of my favorites, and it will always be a favorite, is we had a client that is a car maker, automobile maker, and we created a shark cage in the shape of a very iconic car, and we drove it underwater with a bunch of sharks. And then the next year, they wanted to make it a convertible, so we did, and we put thrusters on it, and we made it fly. And it's completely ridiculous and wonderful. And the two brands blended together so seamlessly. The car was beautiful and functional, and it was something that no one had ever done before that we were able to do. And it was something that garnered recognition for Shark Week as a brand, as well as our client as well. And those are the type of projects that are really exciting when you can satisfy both brands and come together with a seamless story.
I love it. And I think that's the essence of modern day storytelling is you want that seamlessness to be there. You don't want it to feel like you're being sold something. You want to be so engrossed with the story. You want to be a part of it that as a viewer, I just want to if you slap a logo on at the end, I'm going to buy that thing because I was
Unfortunately, the shark cage car is not for sale.
Well, maybe that'll be a side business we'll have to start.
I got a guy.
Do our own little shark cage business cars, but I think that's the brilliance and the genius of modern day storytelling is inviting people into that story, saying, here's a world that you want to be in.
We almost exclusively do real people stories. People who genuinely use the products or live the brand that we are talking about. For me, it's great. I have a documentary storytelling background, so it's a great way to blend those two things. And it's also really wonderful to just share really interesting people's stories. You get to meet some fascinating people. We worked with astronomers and paleontologists and adventurers and obviously shark experts, all different sorts of people all around the world. And we get to share their stories in a really unique and meaningful way.
So what's something that to you is probably a normal, everyday thing that you deal with, but to the general public, it would be a complete surprise if they heard?
The amount I talk about sharks, probably, that happens a lot. That's something, especially this time of year. Shark Week's about a month away, so this time of year, there's a lot of discussion of sharks, and I forget, except when I'm around people who are not in my industry, and they go, "Wow, you really talk about sharks a lot." That is something that is not normal for most people's conversation. I also think, we operate in such a global world, and I think, we know what we're doing day to day. We know the kind of work we're doing, and then you get those moments where you see it out in the world, and it's exciting and it's fun, and we're talking about things that for some people is entertainment for them or something they'd never meet. Talking about our talent or the types of projects we're working on is very just commonplace. And then you meet someone and they go, "Oh, I love that person. I'd love to meet them or talk about them."
So what's it like working with some of this talent? Because I know, we all watch these people on TV and we love their personalities or we hate them. Sometimes it's a mix of both. But you get to work in them in a different way, creating promos and doing different pieces of content that you get to see behind the curtain a little bit. What's that process look like when you're dealing with somebody that the whole world knows who they are and you have to deal with them on a professional level, get them in the right place at the right time, tell them what to do or say or
It's wonderful. The great thing about our talent is they are real people. What you see is what you get. And our talent they are who they are for a reason. Our chefs are actual chefs. The fishermen are actual captains. This is what people do for a living. The contractors do home renovation. This is what they do. And so you're getting a very authentic, very genuine person. And so it's a really wonderful experience to work with them. We as an internal agency have the benefit of, we know all of our brands. We have a lot of networks domestically as well as internationally. You get to know the brands, you get to know the people. And we're all part of a larger family. So it's a really great experience to work with them. There's a lot of them are producers in their own right. So there is a very great professional relationship where they know the job that needs to get done. They're incredibly collaborative. And everybody, again, it's going back to earlier of everyone's rowing in the same direction. We're all part of one family who is trying to, a very large family, go in the same direction. So it's less like outside talent and more like we're working with colleagues and friends and family. So our talent is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to ask it, and I have a feeling you're not going to answer it, but do you have a favorite?
A lot of favorites. Ina Garten is one of my favorites, has been one of my favorites for a long time.
Now, for those who don't know, it's not in a garden.
No,
It's on a
no, it
garden.
is not. The Barefoot Contessa herself.
Barefoot Contessa, Food Network,
Yes.
lives in what, Rhode Island? Or is she
East
the-
Hampton, Long Island.
Okay. So what about her stands out to you? What's so appealing? Is that a personal preference? Is that somebody that you think would be easy to work with?
But I've been a fan of Food Network and cooking. You know, I love to cook. I like to eat. I like food. And she just is someone, I like her recipes. First off, I think she's a wonderful chef. I like her personality. I like the way that she travels the world. She's a Long Island girl like I am, so I like that. You know, there's a little bit of the hometown pride there. She's just someone who seems like a wonderful person, and I appreciate her content, and I like her content a lot. Also a fan of the Deadliest Catch Captains. Those guys are great. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Have you been on a Deadliest Catch boat?
Not yet.
Not
I have
yet.
been on a shark boat that has been in a lot of waves, but nothing like Deadliest Catch.
Well, if that ever happens, we're going to do a follow-up episode.
Sounds like a plan.
I just want to hear about that experience.
You know how it's going to end. Not well.
All right, so I think everybody gets to a point in their career where you get there because you've had help along the way. So is there anybody that stands out to you, whether it's people from afar or close by, or that you look at and say, that's a mentor, that's a titan of mine, that's somebody that I look up to and
Yes.
helped me get here?
I mean, obviously, friends and family, of course, you know, they, especially the last year, have supported me, my careers, and know that my career is important, my work's important. I do have someone that when I first started at the job I'm at now, I was an associate producer. I did not have a lot of experience as a post-producer or someone who sat in an edit bay and knew how to give direction well to an editor. One of the things I learned is you have to be very confident with your direction as someone who is leading creative, whether it's a designer, an editor, et cetera, you have to be confident in that. And I didn't know that when I first started out. And there is an executive producer, still works on our team, who said, I'm giving you the opportunity. You're only going to learn by doing it. Get in the booth, get in the edit suite, and do it. And she pushed me out of my she still pushes me out of my comfort zone. She did yesterday. She was giving me some advice yesterday, and is someone who consistently knows where my line is and knows how to push me over it and go, I'm going to give you the tools to succeed. And I credit her with a lot of my career, and I tell her it all the time. But she's someone who I think really pushed me in the direction I'm in now.
I love it. Well, I've met several people kind of within your organization and circle, and I don't think I've met anybody that I was like, well, they're just okay. I mean, it seems like it's an A+ team.
It is.
Everybody really knows their stuff, but they push themselves. They push each other.
We also care about each other. I mean, when I say we're a family, we are a family. A lot of us have worked together for a very long time. We know what kind of coffee each other like. We know what each other's lunch order is. We know each other's families. We check in on each other. We do push each other. We challenge each other. You know, we have disagreements on things which ultimately get us into a better place. And it's one of the reasons I've stayed at Discovery for so long is we are better as a team together and we get so much more done. And that takes time. That's years of fostering those relationships. And I'm really grateful for the team I have. It's wonderful. And it keeps getting better. We keep adding new people all the time. And it's great to have them part of the family now.
It's awesome. So in a simplified sense, you guys are almost a business within a business. The internal agency sort of serves multiple clients in a sense, but
Yes.
they're all internal under the same big group. So looking at your group, your division, independently, one of the questions I like to ask is, you know, every business or every entity, and if you consider yourselves an independent entity, you ultimately succeed or fail because of what I think are three things. And I want you to rank these in order of importance and then give me the why.
Okay.
Ideas, execution, and culture. So if you had to rank those in order of importance.
Execution, ideas, and culture.
Execution is number one.
We are the team that gets it done. That is ultimately, at the end of the day, one of the reasons our team is so successful is whether it is traditional production, or it's, hey, we're going to do this thing called VR. Can you guys try it? Sure. Hey, we're going to launch this new streaming service. Can you guys do it? Okay. We are the team that gets it done. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly learning. Part of our success is that we can execute.
Everything is figure outable. If you've heard of the book from Maria Florio, everything is figure outable. Basically, whether it's been done or not, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and we've had times where we're like, oh, well, this is fun. You know, there's a lot of stuff, and it's, you know, you look back and you're like, oh, okay, well, we figured that all out. But you're right, it is. Everything is figure outable. But our team can execute. We deliver, and we do what it has to. We do what has to get done to get the job done, and to make our clients happy, and to make the company happy. We have a very high standard that we live up to, and
And you have to.
We have to.
Large organizations that are the stakeholders in your execution.
The company at large.
The company at large, or your clients and advertisers.
Yes.
So execution's number one. Ideas is number two. Talk to me about why the idea piece falls where it does.
The ideas piece is important. I think it's, obviously we need good ideas. We need creative ideas. We need to be able to come to our clients with things that are interesting and unique, whether it's edits. We need to be able to come to our clients with interesting ideas, unique ideas, whether it's a title treatment or some sort of graphic package for a campaign, or it's a how to build a shark cage car, or whatever it is. It's definitely important. I mean, all three things that you listed out are important. Sometimes we have to start the execution before the ideas are there. So I think that's why it's just a hair under execution.
Which is interesting, because a lot of people would say, well, you have to have the idea, then you go execute on the idea. But I know in the past we've talked about the fact that you guys are a day out from a shoot, and the shoot's not even 100% greenlit or something. And
you have to evolve. I think you evolve the idea sometimes, and this is one of the things that I learned early on. So sometimes the idea and the execution kind of go on a parallel path together, that things will evolve, and you kind of pick up things along the way that make the idea even better than it was when you first started it. Similar to an edit, you start with an idea with an edit, you write a script, and then you add another layer of music, and then the editor takes it and they add their pacing and their timing and their layer onto it, and then you add graphics. And a lot of times, for the best, what you come out with at the end piece is not exactly what you thought of at the beginning, but it's still wonderful because there was this collaboration of all of these different experts who added their piece to this idea and to this creative.
I love that. All right, so from what I know about you and sort of the background that you've had, what are some of the skill sets that you would say have helped you become successful in your field and continue to grow in an organization that's constantly evolving, constantly doing things that have never been done before?
Research, constantly researching, and that includes asking questions when you don't know, asking questions of people who are smarter than you or who are experts in things that you don't know, not being afraid to ask questions. When I first started at Discovery, I ran around and asked a lot of questions because I did not know a lot of things at the time. Also being organized. I am much more effective when I am organized and I know where to find things. I spend less time looking for things and more time doing the bigger thinking and deeper thinking that needs to happen. And also, I think, interpersonal communication skills. Being able to talk to not only clients, but being able to talk to your colleagues, being able to work through difficult scenarios with them, being able to also be empathetic. I think being empathetic is something that, as much as sometimes people want to break out business and personal, it's not, especially in an industry like ours where you spend a lot of time with the same people. And being able to be empathetic, whether it's to someone you're interviewing or someone you're working with, I think that is kind of one of those skills that doesn't get talked about enough, but does lead to building better relationships, more trust, and ultimately a better product.
I love it. Okay. Let's move into the sort of the quick hit questions and answers. So first thing that comes to mind, what is the best or latest book that you've read?
I just finished a book called Why Fish Don't Exist, which is great. It's about a naturalist who tries to find order in the world only to find out that chaos constantly reigns. Great for someone in production. I highly recommend it. That is a great book. I like that. That's the most recent that I finished.
Interesting. Are you a podcast person? Do any podcasts?
I do. I do love podcasts. I like a variety of them. Obviously, yours. Yours is great.
You were not forced to say that. But
I totally was. He totally bribed me. No, it is great, and I'm super proud of you for it. I like a variety of things. Some of my constant rotations are The Splendid Table, TED Radio Hour, Ask Eliza Anything, hilarious, totally recommend. There's actually a really great one about the fall of the Roman Empire. And Wild Ideas Worth Living is also really great too. So there's a lot. I do like podcasts though.
Plenty to add to the list.
Plenty.
What is a daily routine that you have to do every single day?
Besides feed my cat, I try to take a couple minutes each day to sit outside. Whether it's in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, watch the sunrise, or at the end of the day to just sit outside and just not in front of a screen, not in front of my phone, and just sit and be outside. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, it has to happen.
I love that. Well, and to move off the quick hit portion of it, because I do want to hit on this real quick, but Los Angeles was hit by the pandemic in a way that a lot of places weren't. You know,
Yes.
You've got an area here that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million people.
Yep.
And the place shut down.
It did.
You could hardly even go outside. So I think to people in different parts of the country, that may seem crazy to just like go outside. But you guys didn't go to the office once.
We're still
Restaurants
not.
are
We're
closed.
still not in the office. We went home on March 13th and have not been back since.
Locked up collecting dust.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Restaurants are just, started. We opened up outdoor dining. We're just started recently opening up indoor dining. But on the flip side, living in a place like Los Angeles, respite in nature was huge. Being able to go outside, come to the beach like this, to be able to sit on the beach, to be able to go hiking, to be able to just sit outside my own house and feel the sun and listen to the birds was a big respite. So I'm relatively new to LA, so it was definitely strange to move to a new city and then have it locked down. But having access to the weather and the just beautiful scenery around here was pretty great.
I love it. Well, I, for one, am thankful that things are starting to open back up and travel's picking back up. And
You're sitting on a beach now.
sitting on a beach, face-to-face interactions are back. Okay, moving back on. What is the best piece of advice you've either given or received?
All of a sudden, all the great advice people have given me is just flown out my head.
What is a relatively new formed habit? A lot of people's habits changed throughout the last however many months. Is there anything that stands out?
I finally have a garden that I haven't killed yet, so that's new. I think that helps.
I love it. Little at-home garden
yeah.
to keep some fresh produce.
Got some tomatoes and zucchinis going. It's great.
If you could write a book, or in LA, if you had a billboard, what would the book title be, or what would the billboard say? What would your message
Oh man, I wish you asked me this like 3 days ago. I had a very good book title the other day. Probably something like "Come to my house for dinner."
Well, I know you've got Italian roots.
I do.
So family Italian dinners, I'm sure, are a big piece of
Yes.
your upbringing. I get that. What is the best thing you've bought in the last year under $100?
My hummingbird feeder.
Love it. Sit and watch hummingbirds while you're tending the garden.
Exactly.
Are you a music lover? Do you have a favorite artist or musician?
I don't have a singular one. I do like music. Right now, what's currently kind of on repeat is I go through phases with music, so there's not like one set, but one that's pretty constantly in rotation is 07.
07. Love it. Okay, and favorite food?
Oh gosh, you can't ask an Italian that. Are you crazy?
Well, there's different types of Italian food. What stands out?
I mean, my go-to is usually, if I have to pick a go-to, it's pasta. For sure.
Do you have a favorite type? Do you like a more dense, like
Depends on my
tortellini?
mood.
Or
I
a
do-
long strand of spaghetti?
I do really like Big Ziti.
Okay. Love some ziti. I'll tell you what, you give me any pasta with cheese on it and I'm sold.
I'll make you Big Ziti.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Gina, what else stands out that we haven't talked about that you think is interesting that you do every day or that's gotten you to where you are today?
I think remembering your audience, for us especially, we are known around the world. We've had people in countries all over the world who go, oh, I love Discovery. It's my favorite. And I take that very seriously. And we all sit in meetings and we have a very similar day-to-day that I'm sure that a lot of your listeners do, where there's Zoom meetings and calendars and schedules and emails and all of that stuff. Where our content goes is around the world, and constantly remembering that we are doing this for such a large audience, and that there is a level of authenticity that needs to happen, and a level of respect to the creative that needs to happen. And it forces you to be on your A game all the time because people are going to see it and you want to give them the best that you possibly can.
I love that. Well, from one storyteller to another, that I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think that too many times people want to think more about their brand than they do their audience. Mm-hmm. And I think the most important thing I try to communicate all the time is we almost have to forget about the brand. The brand has to be true to itself. You have to communicate the story in a way that makes sense to the brand. But if you're not connecting with that audience, none of it matters.
Yeah.
Well, Gina, thanks. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Nate.
it. Always a pleasure to get to chat.
Happy
hang
to
out.
be here on the beach with you.
That's right. What we're going to do now is play 20 minutes of wave sound. So if you have a tough time falling asleep.
Welcome to your meditation.
That's right. All right. Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Nate.
If you liked this episode of Titans of Industry, head to contenttitan.co/podcast for more episodes or subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. Thanks for listening.